Time now for The Clash. OK, so MI5 missed a significant opportunity to stop the Manchester Arena bombings, which left 23 people dead. That includes the attacker, so we'll call it 22, shall we? And over 1,000 people injured, according to the chair of a public inquiry into the attack. Now, in response, Suella Braverman has said that she is committed to working with MI5 and the police to do everything possible to avert a repeat of the horrifying arena attack. And responding to a separate damning report on the government's anti-terror programme Prevent, the Home Secretary said yesterday that political correctness around Islamist ideology has created a blind spot and that extremism is operating under our radar. So is she right? Has political correctness actually helped to fuel Islamist extremism? Let us know your thoughts by emailing dan@gbnews.uk. Tweet me as well @gbnews. And while you're there, go and vote in our poll. I'll bring you those results very, very shortly. You've just got time. But to debate this now, without further dither and delay, I am joined by social commentator Bushra Sheikh and former head of the National Counter-Terrorism Security Office, Chris Phillips. Right, Chris, I will start with you. Are people too afraid of the political correct mob to actually stop terror attacks?
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but what I would say is there's a real difficulty in investigations around Islamic extremists. And there's lots of reasons for that. But I think by far the greatest is that no one wants to be called a racist, a fascist or whatever. And those sort of names are very much thrown around. And I think people are very scared to actually report people that are of clear worry to society.
Bushra, people were supposedly, anyway, too afraid to really question what Salman Abedi, the Manchester Arena bomber, was doing in there for fear, potentially, of seeming racist. Now, I would put it to you that potentially political correctness cost 22 lives there, some of which were children.
Okay, I'm just gonna say it as it is. Firstly, Suella Braverman, as I know her as Cruella, is the most vile, hate-insightful individual that should be kept. If she knows what's good for her. Worse than the bloke who detonated a bomb in an arena full of kids, Bushra. Worse than that. Well, no. Look, one thing I'm going to say is when it comes to terrorism, and this terminology that we've created called Islamist, whatever that means. Our community, when we talk about the Muslim community, we are in support of finding out what's going on, how this happens, and supporting that movement to say, how do we tackle this?
This report, Bushra, said that the Didsbury Mosque did not cooperate with them as fully as they could have. So is that true, what you've just said, Bushra?
Okay, so they are now using one mosque to say that they didn't give their 100% attention. I would question that because what you're saying is they did support them. They did help them, but maybe not at the expectation or the level that they actually wanted. I mean, I've not come across this report, but I certainly know that the Muslim community are always in support of that. So for me, this is about inciting division, yet again, between the general community and the Muslim community. For me, the Prevent only does the opposite of that. It endorses Islamophobia, actually, rather than contributing in a more productive way.
I mean, that is fascinating, given that some taxpayers' money that went to Prevent found its way into the hands of a group that was actually very sympathetic towards the Taliban. But, Chris, I'll bring you back in now. Now, do you think that people are right, actually, to be afraid to report people who they fear might be radical Islamists? Because we do often see a whopping great big reaction from some elements, not all, but some elements of the Muslim community. I can rattle off a few examples now, Batley Grammar School being one of them, this school where this poor autistic lad accidentally scuffed a copy of the Quran and received death threats being the other. People might be right to be afraid.
Well, I think they are, and they get labelled very quickly. And, we've just heard a couple of minutes ago, Suella Braverman be called every name under the sun because she gave an opinion. And she has an opinion on what's going wrong in our country. And it's very easy to throw these terms out. Listen, everyone knows that it's a very small number of people that want to commit any kind of terrorist attack. But they do come from a community, and that community has to do more, and so do the people around that community, to make sure the people that are at the extreme are reported. And it's exactly the same situation for the far right wing. It's exactly the same situation that people need to be willing to bring those people forward and tell the police about what's going on, and then the police be able to do the investigation without being called a racist as soon as they do it.
Do you think that people do unnecessarily cry racism sometimes, Bushra?
No, I don't. I think if they generally have an experience of that, they should call it out. And this idea of political correctness to be woke is the most ridiculous thing I've heard come out of anybody's mouth today. She's just a mouthpiece, a clout chaser for the far right, inciting divide for absolutely no reason. And you know what? To say that the Muslim community or a community needs to do more, we do so much already. And to say that we don't just does the very thing that we don't want to do. Why are we ostracizing one community over another when they have helped tremendously for so many years with this? I mean, to me, it's just ridiculous. I'm actually very angry.
Do you not think that maybe, Bushra, it's got something to do with the fact that quite a lot of people have died at the hands of Islamist terrorism in the UK? Can I also ask you, Bushra, actually, this is an important one, just something that you said there about Suella Braverman adding clout to, I think you said, far-right ideology. Suella Braverman, of course, is an ethnic minority. Do you think she's some kind of traitor, maybe, to other members of ethnic minority communities?
She is that token brown face that gets presented as a puppet to not speak on behalf of our community. She speaks on behalf for the right wing. She's not there for anybody. She's there for herself. Nobody likes her. Maybe a few people do. She certainly isn't somebody that I would be in support of. For her to stand against policies that discriminate against her is the most ludicrous thing to be out there.
That's strong stuff. I imagine Suella would obviously dispute that. But, Chris, I'll bring you in. I could see you shaking your head there a little bit. I mean, that allegation there that Suella Braverman is just a shill for the far right and actually potentially is a traitor to her own race.
Well, I think there's an awful lot of people in the street that would agree with Suella Braverman, and not necessarily from the right wing at all. I think there are problems in our society, and I think she gives a mouthpiece to some of those. But exactly what we're getting here now is exactly the problem. An overreaction to someone's comments, which many people in this country find quite will agree with.
Okay,
no, it's because it's dangerous. The comments are absolutely ridiculous, and they are dangerous. You are marginalising a community, and how can you do that over others? Political correctness is to make people come together. It's to unite people, not having individuals like her.
OK, so political correctness, it's been acknowledged, got in the way of police investigating numerous different grooming gang scandals that took place, which meant that political correctness led to young, vulnerable, mostly white, working-class girls being systematically abused on an industrial scale. Political correctness may well have got in the way of an investigation properly, or certainly a last-minute opportunity to stop Salman Abedi, who blew himself up in an arena full of children. I mean, political correctness potentially is costing lives, Bushra. It's not weird to raise that, is it?
No, it's not political correctness that's taking lives. It's policy and process and doing the right thing that is costing lives. It's not because of a group of people that are stopping that from happening. It is a process and policies that are in place that are not working. That's what's causing deaths of people to happen, not a community. I mean, the questions that we're asking here are all wrong.
Chris, final word over to you on this then. React to that.
Well, listen, we've got groups of people in this country, individuals and groups, that wish to go out and kill people. It's a incredible problem that the security services and police are having to deal with. It's in everyone's interest to support them in doing that. And the vast majority of people in this country do, and whether Muslim, Hindu or Christian or anything else. But it is actually we need to free the hands of our police, our security services, to actually do the investigation properly, to pick out those small numbers of people that are actually a real threat to everyone.
All right, look, both of you, proper debate, that. Thank you very, very much. That was social commentator Bushra Sheikh and former head of the National Counter-Terrorism Security Force. It's Chris Phillips. So, who do you agree with? Has political correctness fuelled Islamist extremism? So we're not just saying, by the way, let people get away with it. No, really actively encouraged it. Earl says on Twitter, sadly, yes, political correctness has fuelled extremism. Fear of causing offence has been given greater priority than the lives of the British people. Nick also on Twitter says yes and no. Oh, here we go. Political correctness is part of it, but so is British foreign policy. And Marcho says, Considering we know that grooming gangs weren't tackled over fear of racism accusations, I would guess that all other areas have also been impacted. And drumroll, please, because your verdict is now in. We did a whopping great big Twitter poll on this, and 92% of you agree that political correctness has fueled Islamist extremism. 8% say that it hasn't. So there we go. What a way to kickstart us this evening.